Welcome to Discovering. Lake sturgeon are one of the oldest fish species in the Great Lakes and were historically abundant before European settlement. But by the early 1900s, their populations were nearly decimated by overharvest, habitat loss, and pollution. Work to restore populations in Lake Superior have been ongoing for the past 26 years. And it's collaborative conservation efforts like this that have helped keep lake sturgeon recently off the Endangered Species List.
There's already really good collaboration going on across the Great Lakes regarding sturgeon management and restoration.
Tonight we take a behind-the-scenes look at how multiple natural resource agencies work together to collect lake sturgeon larvae to help restore populations in the Lake Superior region.
It's a real healthy population here in the Sturgeon River, and because of that, it's a good egg source for us to use for other locations.
So sit back and relax. It's Monday night, and it's time for Upper Michigan's very own Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forest thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill. The eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
Back in the fall of 2019, I did a story about the lake sturgeon rearing trailer and stocking on the Ontonagon River. State, federal, and tribal natural resources agencies have been working to restore a spawning lake sturgeon population to the Ontonagon River.
It is a collaboration, Michigan DNR, Minnesota DNR, Fond du Lac Tribe in Minnesota, Fish and Wildlife Service, people from Ashland are here. There's Forest Service staff here from the Ottawa National Forest.
A piece of the puzzle I did not cover then was where and how they got the lake sturgeon eggs in the spring to raise inside the trailer. The labor-intensive process of doing this requires all the right conditions, specifically water levels low and slow enough for a crew to safely navigate the river to collect sturgeon gamete. After 4 years and a historically dry winter, we were able to get on the Sturgeon River for the lake sturgeon spawn.
Yeah, well, we're down here on the Sturgeon River in Verga County, Michigan, collecting lake sturgeon eggs and milt to help restore lake sturgeon in the Ontonagon River, and also in the St. Louis River in Minnesota and Wisconsin.
This section of the Sturgeon River flows from Prickett Dam north into the Portage Lake system and from there out to the south entry to Lake Superior, and has one of the only natural self-sustaining populations of lake sturgeon in the UP.
We think most of the fish in the Sturgeon River are naturally produced, and that's the reason we're using the stream side rearing over on the Ontonagon, is to help limit those fish that might swim around the peninsula or through the waterway and return to the Sturgeon River to spawn. So we're trying to imprint them on the Ontonagon River and get them to run up that system. But there hasn't been stocking directly into the Sturgeon River ever. So these are all wild fish. It's a real healthy population here in the Sturgeon River, and because of that, it's a good egg source for us to use for other locations.
Part of the difficulties in this process is being on the river at the right place at just the right time. After years of doing this, they know the right place, which takes 2 river crossings and a mile hike to get there. But it's a matter of water temperatures to dictate the time. 10 to 11 degrees Celsius, or 50 degrees Fahrenheit, is that magic number. Day 1, the water was not warm enough and the sturgeon were not spawning yet.
Yeah, no, they're not spawning yet. They need the water to warm up a few degrees, and then they'll be ready to go. hopefully tomorrow.
These efforts began 26 years ago, but really took speed in 2013 with the Streamside Rearing Trailer in Bergland.
So the DNR and Michigan Tech had started in 1998. And that was the initial start. There was a request from Minnesota and Wisconsin to get eggs or fish from the river for the St. Louis River. At that time when Michigan started collecting for that purpose, they also collected some for Michigan, and those went into the Ontonagon River. And then the GLRI funding allowed us to purchase that rearing trailer, and that's when that started in 2013. Since 2013, we've got about 10-year classes in the river, so there are a few years that we weren't successful in collecting eggs or larvae, and so our goal is 20 or 25-year classes. So I would think another decade at least, and similar on the St. Louis River, so they're continuing to get eggs from here, and probably another decade that Minnesota, DNR, and Fond du Lac are looking for up in their areas.
Here, trying to collecting gametes with sturgeon and bring them to the Upper St. Louis River system in Cloquet, Minnesota, above the reservation, where borders our reservation up there. We've been doing fairly well. We have some success. We've got some 55, 60 inchers. We got at least 12 of our sturgeon with radiotelemetry on them. So we've been tracking them up and down the river system. We got a pilot that flies once a month for us, so we can see responding areas is. It's been really nice working with these guys. Like I said, Fond du Lac has a big part in wanting to put sturgeon back into the Upper St. Louis River system, and that's our goal for the kids of tomorrow can see what we get to see down here one day. So,
Our strange winter weather patterns lingered into spring, and day 2, the sturgeon were still not spawning.
So yesterday when we were here, the temperature was about 7.5 degrees, but it was a warm day and the temperature was going up quite rapidly, and it was up over 8 degrees. And for some reason, the temperature immediately dropped as fast as it was going up, back down to about 7 degrees. I have no idea why, but that is going to put the fish off that much longer. We need it to warm up again to about 10 or 11 degrees Celsius.
There were sturgeon in the river though, and although we had no hopes of spawning, the crew still worked each fish they netted. Each sturgeon was checked for a pit tag. If no tag, they inserted a small pit tag to identify the fish in the future.
It's the same tag that vets put in dogs and cats for identification. So there's the tag number.
I would say there were more untagged than tagged fish in the river.
And we have a pit tag, 10 digits, 444 147.
And they weighed and measured each fish and took a small fin clip for genetic sampling. The fish they weighed were anywhere from 20 to 109 pounds.
22.4, 29.2, 29.2.
Yeah, a little higher.
I got it, Matt.
49.4.
It was all hands on deck. They worked each fish up quickly and released them back to the river to hopefully spawn soon.
Yeah, once a female is ripe and starts spawning, when you get her in the net, she's going to be spewing eggs. And she will also be surrounded by a harem of males. So these girls that are out there by themselves, they're not close yet. But you're free to go. Whoa. Ooh, sharp. Watch your hands.
Sharp scoots.
Very sharp scoots. So sturgeon don't have scales. They have 5 rows of scoots. One down along the back here, and you can see a few of them are sticking up a little bit. There's a row along this side and along this side, and then if you turn her over, there's another row that really you can't see, one on each side of the abdomen. So in the young ones, they are like razor blades. They stick up quite a bit from the skin, and they draw blood if you're not careful. There's some sharp scoots for you. But as they grow, they tend to wear down, and the adults don't need them for protection from predators like the young do, for sure.
Some of these fish we're netting are 60, 70, maybe even 80 years old. It takes female lake sturgeon 20 to 25 years to reach reproductive maturity, And then they only spawn every 3 to 4 years.
That might be a female, might be a young female. It's probably in the 25-year-old range.
Total is 132.
Yeah, based on her size, this might be her first time spawning.
I wasn't able to make it out every day with the team, but I was there for their second successful day on the river, and they were halfway to their goal.
You're mine!
It's like magic.
It is. Yeah, we're down here where the fish are spawning, and we collect the eggs into Ziploc bags and collect milt into syringes from the males.
Oh, that's a boy. Syringe. There.
Oh, there we go. Now let's get... Enough there?
No. That's enough. That's good.
Keep the milt on ice in a cooler.
Maggie, wasn't the rest of them?
Ziploc bags with eggs are in a bucket of river water just to keep them at a constant temperature. We want to get eggs from 10 females. We want to get sperm from more males than females, and then we'll take an individual female's eggs and split them up into several different lots and use one male per lot of females' eggs, just trying to get as much genetic diversity in the fish that we're stocking as possible.
Yeah, we got eggs. We got eggs. Matt, grab the tail, please. Got it. Let's get her out of the net. Yep.
Ready?
Flip her over on her back. Whoa! Okay, you're with friends. Oh! Nope. Okay, I mean, you can keep those. Drop the tail up. Okay. Well, let her crash. Let her crash. Is there something I can do to help here?
Shout encouraging words.
You guys are doing great. How many are in the bag, Dan? Yeah, let's see if we can get a few more. There we go. Nice.
All right, that's enough. I'm happy.
She wanted to do that.
These eggs are just a drop in the bucket. Each female will deposit millions of eggs. The team searched the river for the next few hours, looking and waiting for more females to begin spawning, which could be any minute.
So they're looking for, as you can see, it's fairly high gradient. It's a riffle. The substrate that they like to spawn on is large gravel to cobble, and some of this is even just flat bedrock that they're spawning over. Oh, that's the girl right here.
Females let off pheromones to let males know that she's ready to spawn.
Sturgeon spawn in groups, and it's typically multiple males with a single female, or if there's more than one female. Males always outnumber the females. Typically, in a group of spawning fish, the females are easy to identify just by their size. They're typically much larger than the males, certainly more round. And when a female is ready to start spawning, the males will actually come up alongside her and start beating her on the flank with their tail. And it actually, if you're standing there, it sounds like a grouse drumming. And that's the signal for the female to release her eggs. The males are releasing milt. They mix as they're going downriver, fertilized, eggs are getting fertilized. And then within about a minute or so, they become extremely adhesive. And they're also negatively buoyant, so they're sinking down to the bottom of the river. And what happens to the eggs, at least that survive, is they end up in between the gravel and cobbles. So they're safe from predators like crayfish and small fish. Sturgeon egg, as you can see, it's got what looks like sand grains stuck to it maybe, and it's stuck to the rock I'm holding. And this rock was upside down. So this egg is safe from predators. It'll take about 10 days to 2 weeks for it to hatch and be ready to head on downstream.
This is a long, tough, dirty, and wet job, but someone must do it, and I didn't hear a single complaint. It was a lot more fun than any day in the office, and a job they all look forward to each year, and all for an important mission.
Well, we want to maintain the native fish community of the Lake Superior Basin and throughout the Great Lakes, and this is this is one way to do that.
So I would say probably in the neighborhood of 100,000 total fish between juveniles and adults out in Lake Superior. In the Ontonagon alone, we've stocked 20 or 30,000, I don't remember the exact number, since 1998. Obviously, some of those fish haven't survived. So yeah, we're making good progress on sturgeon restoration for sure.
And we conduct assessments every year along the shoreline of Lake Superior off Ontonagon to see how our stocking effort is going. There's usually a 2 or 3 year lag between when we release them as 6 to 8 inch fish and when we catch them in our index survey. They're usually in that 15 to 25 inch range. There's a direct correlation, the number we stock to the number we capture in that index survey effort. So we're fairly confident that we're having success with the survival of those fish. Now the ultimate goal is that in 20 or 25 or 30 years, those fish return to the Ontonagon River to spawn. The first fish that we released through this streamside rearing effort was in 2013. So we've got another decade or so before we'll see any of those fish returning. But that will be the ultimate success, is if when those fish return to spawn and we start getting larvae that are produced naturally from those stocked fish.
After collecting the eggs and milt, the team fertilized the eggs on site.
When we get back up to the dam and are ready to start fertilizing, we'll split the eggs from each individual female into 4 different containers. And then we'll use 4 different males to fertilize those eggs, 1 male per container. So again, it's an effort to try and increase the genetic diversity on what we're stocking. Once the milt and the eggs and the water get mixed, we have about a minute to let them fertilize, and then the eggs become very sticky, as I mentioned, I think, earlier. And at that point, they have to be put into a stainless steel bowl of water with very fine clay, and then constantly stirred for about 45 minutes with a turkey feather. And what happens to that process is the clay sticks to the eggs so that the eggs don't stick to each other. And then they get transported down to the Genoa hatchery in Genoa, Wisconsin, to be raised for the summer.
The Ontonagon River rearing trailer fish will come from larval drift netting the crew will do a few weeks after the spawn.
We used to put eggs from this effort into the trailer, but research that we've done in other places has conclusively shown that you get far more genetic diversity in the offspring that you're stocking if you catch them after the adults have spawned. So, adults are going to spawn here in the next couple of days, and then we'll start a clock, keep track of water temperature, and we can predict when the fertilized eggs here are going to hatch, when the larvae are then going to be ready to disperse downstream. And when they leave here, they're just drifting passively with the current. And so when we know they're leaving here, we go out at night with drift nets and we catch them and take those fish to the trailer in Ontonagon. And again, it's just so we can maximize the genetic diversity in the fish that we're stocking.
When the calendar and water temperature said the sturgeon larvae should drift downstream, the team reassembled to net them.
They're drifting downstream to essentially be deposited in areas that they can find food and start feeding on their own. So why are they drifting at night? It's probably a bit of a survival mechanism, that there's less predation.
So by 11 o'clock, we should be catching fish if they're drifting. If we don't catch any fish by 11 o'clock, then we may be, like I said, a day or two early.
After multiple nights of setting nets and waiting for hours, the larvae capture was unsuccessful. Only a dozen or so were caught. But one theory is the fluctuating water temperatures we experienced while on the river during the spawn.
And then we've continued to have cold water for the last 3-4 weeks, and that has slowed their development, the egg development in the river. So we probably don't have as concise a pulse of spawning, egg deposition, and hatch as we have had in other years. This year's maybe throwing us a few curveballs, but it's biology and you don't know what nature is going to do.
But there is hope for a 2024 year class, as some excess juvenile sturgeon can be brought back from the Wisconsin hatchery to the rearing trailer on the Ontonagon River system to continue rearing and stocking here. There was recently a push by groups to put lake sturgeon on the Endangered Species List. After a year-long status assessment, this year the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service determined lake sturgeon do not require listing under the Endangered Species Act.
The result was that it was not warranted because, in large part, of the cooperative conservation efforts that are taking place. And this is a fantastic example of that.
That's all for tonight, and I hope to see you right back here next week for Upper Michigan's very own Discovering.